parking levels, which just simply flattened onto one another like pancakes.
You have also talked about more bomb threats around the country. One at an IRS office in Boston, another one at the federal building in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, we're not sure how all of this is connected, but we're getting word of this over the wire and through the telephone. There you're seeing more pictures of the Murrah Federal Building and the complete devastation there, just a huge chunk blown out of it.
We've been talking about the World Trade Center bombing and any similarities there. We understand now that President Clinton is sending a team in to investigate this blast, and it will be the same team that investigated the World Trade Center bombing, which, as I mentioned, was just about 2 years ago. We mentioned the correlation to the Branch Davidian fire, which was 2 years ago today. The World Trade Center bombing anniversary was the day before the start of the standoff in Waco, so that would have been 2 years ago in February.
A deadly coincidence, unfortunately.
At 9:02 a.m., a rental truck packed with explosives detonated in front of the 9-story Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. The powerful explosion blew off the building's north wall. Emergency crews raced to Oklahoma from across the country. And when the rescue effort finally ended 2 weeks later, the death toll stood at 168 people, including 19 young children who were in the building's daycare center at the time of the blast. More than 650 other people were injured in the bombing, which damaged or destroyed more than 300 buildings in the immediate area.
A massive manhunt for the bombing suspect ensued, and on April 21st, an eyewitness description led authorities to charge Tim McVeigh, a former U.S. Army soldier, for the bombing. As it turned out, McVeigh was already in jail, having been stopped a little more than an hour after the bombing for a traffic violation, and then arrested for unlawfully carrying a handgun. Shortly before he was scheduled to be released from jail, he was identified as a prime suspect in the bombing and charged. That same day, Terry Nichols, an associate of McVeigh's, surrendered in Harrington, Kansas. Both men were found to be members of a radical right-wing survivalist group based in Michigan.
So I both heard it clearly through my earplugs, and literally I was lifted off the ground. I know this may sound like I'm cold in the tag, but remember, this is military training. I was never hyped up. I was always in complete control. Mission was accomplished. I knew it was accomplished, and it was over.
FBI agents prepare to take McVeigh out of the Noble County Courthouse. It will be the first time the world gets a look at the Oklahoma City bomber.
There were steps leading down to the courthouse, and I had to concentrate on where those steps were going to be without dipping my head down or looking down, because people would take dipping my head down as a sign of defeat or something. And I'm in the leg chains. In leg chains, if you ever try walking downstairs and your stride's too long, you'll fall right down because the chain catches on the middle step. So those are the things I was thinking of.
Outside the courthouse, McVeigh comes face to face with a crowd that grows unruly.
It was hard to pick out individual things because they're all yelling at once, right? But I do distinctly remember one I heard, "Look over here, mother baby killer, look me in the face." My immediate thought was, I'm not going to give you the pleasure of looking over there. This was something that I saw as a larger good. And I know that as I analyze the history of not just the U.S., but all nations throughout the history of mankind, people have killed for what they believe is the greater good. And it's accepted. Sometimes killing is accepted.
While still in his teens, McVeigh, who was raised in Western New York, acquired a penchant for guns and began honing survivalist skills he believed would be necessary in the event of a Cold War showdown between the Soviet Union and the U.S. He graduated from high school in 1986 and in 1988 enlisted in the Army, where he proved to be a disciplined and meticulous soldier. While in the military, McVeigh befriended fellow soldier Nicholas, who was more than a dozen years his senior, and shared his survivalist interests. McVeigh, Nicholas, and their associates were deeply radicalized by such events as on April 19, 1993, where in an inferno near Waco, Texas, in which 75 members of a Branch Davidian religious sect died during a shootout with the feds, McVeigh planned an attack on the Murrah building, which housed the regional offices of such federal agencies as the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Secret Service, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the agency that had launched the initial raid on the Branch Davidian compound. In December 1997, McVeigh was found guilty on 1 count of conspiracy and 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter for killing federal law enforcement personnel and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2004, he was tried on state charges in Oklahoma and convicted of 161 counts of first-degree murder, including fetal homicide. He received 161 consecutive life terms in prison. In December 2000, McVeigh asked a federal judge to stop all appeals of his convictions and set a date for his execution. The request was granted, and on June 11, 2001, McVeigh, who was 33, died by lethal injection at a U.S. penitentiary in Indiana. He was the first federal prisoner to be put to death since 1963. After McVeigh's execution, the only thing left was the Federal Memorial Building. It would soon be torn down for safety reasons, and the bombing itself would go down in U.S. history as one of the most tragic home terrorist attacks ever. Thank you for watching.